Let us understand one of the most important macroeconomic concept known as the gross domestic product. Gross domestic product, or to be short, is at the idea level, at the very basic level, it's the total amount of production. So how much we are producing as a country when you add everything together, that's nothing but GDP. But let's go over the exact definition or meaning of GDP, and then visit each word or phrase within this definition, because each word or phrase in this definition carries a meaning and context to it. So GDP is the market value of all, so all is important, final, so here final, the word final is important, goods and services, so it includes goods as well as services, produced, so now the focus is on production, in a country, so we are not talking of foreign production, we are talking of our country's production, in a given period of time. So there is a time element attached to it. Now let's understand each one of these words within this definition. So GDP is the market value of all final goods and services produced in a country in a given period of time. So that's what GDP is about. Okay, fair enough. Now let's understand what does one mean to have a market value. So in order for any goods and services to qualify as a part of GDP, to be included in GDP, it should have a market value. So what is a market value? Things which has dollar value. So if something does not have a dollar value, that cannot be a part of GDP. And which things won't have a dollar value? Things which are not going to have a market. So things that don't have a market won't have a dollar value attached, and if it does not have a dollar value, it cannot be a part of GDP, because there is no market, there is no value, the dollar value to what is being produced. So best way to understand this is, say, let's take an example. Say you think about household activities, and you can think about mowing your own lawn, cleaning your own house, or cooking your own pizza, or any activity that deals with your household activities. So when you say you cook a nice pizza for yourself at home, and then you consume that pizza. Now this pizza that you consume, that you make at home and you consume, does not have a market, because you are not selling this pizza further, you are directly consume that pizza. So when you consume this pizza, of course it has value. Of course when you have this pizza and you eat it, you get value out of it, but it does not have a dollar value. There is no dollar attached to this pizza, because there is no market of that pizza. You are making that pizza and consuming it for yourself. Keep in mind, here we are talking of pizza and not necessarily talking of the cheese and pepperoni and the base and everything that goes in making that pizza. All those are included in GDP. But the pizza that you make out of those products, that pizza, the pizza itself is not a part of GDP, because it's a part of household activity and it does not have a market value. In contrast to this, if you order the same pizza from Pizza Hut and you pay, say, $15 for it, then the pizza that you order from Pizza Hut has a market and has a dollar value called $15, right? And then that pizza, $15 pizza, is a part of GDP, because that's been produced and it has a market value. Right? So that's the reason why the two terms important here is market and then value. So it has a dollar number and then there is a market for it. The next idea is of all. So you include aggregate of all the things that we are producing and not just one or two. So you include apples and oranges and the jets and the computers and the shoes and the jackets and everything that we are producing, every product and services, you'll see goods and services and just two lines below, is a part of GDP. It's an aggregate measure of production. Then comes the word final. What does this final mean? Final means that whatever is being produced, goods or services, is for final consumption, and it excludes intermediate products. So intermediate products are those products which are used to manufacture something else, to produce something else. So if you take an example of steel and car, then steel goes in production of a car, right? So as a country we produce steel, as a country we also produce cars. But steel is a product, is known as intermediate product, because the use of the steel is in making the car. Car is a final product because there is no further use of this car beyond the final, right? So car is a part of GDP but not steel. In some sense steel is also included, but it's through the calculation of car. Obviously, right? Because say you have the value of the market value of the car is $30,000. This already includes the steel value in it. Say if it's 6,000, this 30,000 includes 6,000 in it, right? And that's how in fact you get 30,000 in the first place. So if you include 6 and 36, then you're double counting. You're counting steel twice, once by itself and then within this 30,000 car. And so you exclude the intermediate product and you include only the final product. Car is the final product, steel is the intermediate product. The intermediate products goes in the production of some other product. The next term is goods and services. So things that you can touch, tangible, and services are something that you experience, intangible, are both included as a part of GDP. So it includes laptop, it includes your sandwiches, it includes your jackets, it includes your shoes, as well as your internet service, your banking service, your cable service, and the service sector as a whole. So it includes both tangible and intangible. Then the next question is to do with production, right? So here the focus is on production. GDP has to do with production, and in some sense the intuition behind focusing on production has to deal with has to somehow think about it as a measure of overall well-being of the society, and for that jobs is a very important element of well-being of a society. And when you think about production, that ties with employment or job creation much more than consumption for that matter. So the fact that you are producing a car, it automatically means that there were, 2 engineers working in making that car and 50 workers who went spending hours in making that car, and so these people got job. And so in some sense when you focus on production, you get this ties with your job market or employment situation. And so that's a very important element of measuring GDP. And so it's less about consumption and more about production. The next term is in a country. So now we are talking of the domestic borders, of geographical borders of the country. And so if something is produced outside these geographical borders, then that is not a part of GDP. The last term is it's for a given period of time. So usually it's a quarter, and given period of time has a very simple idea that it's having a time element attached to it. So it's every quarter you compute how much you are producing and you keep on doing it for quarters, all the quarters. And that's what GDP is. So again, GDP is the market value of all final goods and services produced in a country in a given period of